with that, it has officially rolled to 7 p.m. and I will call the September 13th, 2017 work session to order, and we'll let the minutes reflect that all the board members are present, a number of members of staff, and some distinguished members of the audience soon to be heard from. We have, we have the August 23rd minutes before us, and I would entertain a motion of approval for those minutes.
I'll move.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Voice vote. Those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that carries. Lisa, thank you as always for that. Monthly reports. All of the monthly reports are in except two groups, and I'm guessing that they will both be in. Everybody around the table is square, so thank you, gentlemen, for that. And I'm guessing the others will be in by week's end, and we will be all set for our monthly reports. We have no public hearings this evening, and we do have a number of guests. And with that, let's get started. Our first guest, Mary Wynn, and her husband, for a discussion regarding the use of a residence at 2567 Browncroft Boulevard. And Jim Costello and I had the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with Mary here now about a week ago. And I'll ask Jim to tee it up from there, please.
Thanks, Tony. Yeah, within that week, a lot of things have happened. Mary came to me a while back looking at the possibility of purchasing the old Forster home. Forster home for several years had been a 3-family, then down to a 2-family, and then it was purchased a few years ago by the Herlong family, and I think they utilized it as a single family. But it's falling into a state of disrepair in the sense that nobody's been maintaining it. Mary and her husband would like to purchase the property and came to me with the premise that if they purchase it, what can they do with it? And it's not just that property that we were concerned about. As you know, the Mary Carriola Center is also in the process of relocating, and that would leave that building vacant. The building's kind of an awkward building. So I talked to Mary about the fact that we'd have to look at that property as well as one she's interested in, and she agreed with that. She is interested in, she was before the board the other night, the historic board, and Paul was good enough to come. Paul is liaison on the board. She was there for us. We did talk about the idea of the property being designated. Mary's in the process of going through that with the state of New York right now and has invited you to the site on the 21st at 9:30 if you'd like to walk the site and see it. 9 a.m.? Okay, I'm sorry. I had 9:30 for some reason, but that's okay.
Late.
We're not going to be late, don't worry. So if you're interested, please come. I think a couple of the members of the historic board may come, and some of the staff are coming too to walk the site. In any event, she'd like to propose something to you, get your feeling for it. A lot of it's predicated on getting the designation, because without that she can't move forward. As you know, you've approved different things over the years, such as the Clark House, the Strawberry Castle, the Daisy Flour Mill, all under the premise of being a designated site. You've got that ability, as you know, to provide for commercial use of properties through the designation process. With that, I'm going to let you talk about what you want to do.
Okay, so, well, my husband and I live next door to the house, and in Vermont, we own property in the New England states. We have a lot of property in Vermont, and I was explaining to Jim about how we had to do something with the property, and we created a situation where, this is just one of the buildings, where we have studio apartments that we rent, and we rent them furnished, and we rent them, do you mind if I stand?
Oh, absolutely. Go right ahead.
We rent them to people who are professionals that are coming into the area. More than likely, they're not people who are going to live with us long term. They may rent from us for a year, they may rent for 2 years, but they're on a contract job. And it's been very successful for us because we get a very high caliber of client, and we provide a very nice unit for them to live in. And when we knew that Chris and Temple were leaving the house, we always wanted to have this concept here locally. And Jim and I have talked about it for years, and then we just finally had the opportunity to purchase the property. It finally went into a situation where Chris was able to release it. And we think that it would be a really great use of the real estate. The real estate, the building itself is very intact as far as its original state. It has had no changes on the outside at all, except for one door being blocked up, burst up. It has all of the original windows. And we've talked to the local restorer of the windows about repairing them and bringing them back to their original state. There's some work that needs to be done on them, and they need to always have a storm on them. But so much of the house is in its original condition.
When was it built?
Well, it was originally built in 1830. There's a house within a house, and you can see the brick wall in the center. So I'm not sure which half was the first part, because it's got two front entrances. But it really lends itself well to our idea, because there's so many exterior doors that literally you can get into every space that we would utilize as an apartment from the outside. So people would not have to go through other people's apartments. They wouldn't have to go through, you know, there wouldn't be a lot of people coming in through a major hallway. And I was doing the floor plan. I spent a lot of time looking at different layouts of between 250 and 400 square foot studio apartments online and layout plans. And the way the house lays out, it lays itself out beautifully for that application. It's really unbelievable.
Would you be able to kind of save what the old house?
Absolutely, we'd use we might have some extra doors left, because I think some of the rooms have like 5 doors into them. Everything connects to itself in this house, so it makes it very easy to, like, where there's a doorway into a hallway, maybe carve that hallway out and make that like a little office or a little laundry room, or the kitchen in certain rooms. But there's very little that we really need to change, except add some interior walls. And, you know, we've got to take some ceilings down. They put some drop ceilings in. We've got to insulate. Some of the wiring needs to be brought up to date. We'd have to put a bigger service in. There's a lot of exterior work that needs to be done with pointing, mortar, and things like that. But the house itself is very original, which is what's really unbelievable about this situation.
Penfield was alive when it was built.
He sold the land.
I know.
He sold the land to them. So, and one of the things that the state and the National Registry would require is for us to call it the Ross Farm, because that's what it was. It was the Ross Farm, which I think is really cool to be able to put a placard outside and for someone to be able to live in Ross Farm. You know,
Right.
I just think it's a beautiful opportunity.
Yeah, I see that.
So Mary, what are you thinking or looking at by number of units as you take a look at your layouts?
Well, I was trying to do, it takes me a while to do my floor plans to figure out what goes where, but I know in the first part, on the main floor, we can get 4 units in the front of the building. And then I think we can get 4 upstairs and then 2 in the back. There is a back apartment right now, and it's 2-story, but I think by changing the staircase, we'll be able to do the second floor as one apartment and the first as another. So I think 10. I don't know if 11 would be possible. I think it's going to depend how I work it out with Dan Pope. But it is.
And that's your architect that you're working with.
I mean, they're going to be
so
spacious. They're going to be nice. There'll be lots of light in them. It's really, because they boarded up over a lot of doorways too.
Yeah.
So some of the exterior doors they boarded up over also. So the door's there, but the inside of the house doesn't lead to it.
Okay.
So when we open that up, it'll access more space.
Very good.
Any changes to the exterior grounds for parking or
Yeah,
driveway?
we would have to do garage. We would be replacing the existing garage with a different garage, and then.
Excuse me, Mary, just a minute. Hey, Eric, take it out, or it's a courtesy to everyone.
Well, I was quiet enough. My apologies to everyone.
Thank you.
So
Go ahead, Mary.
we actually had, we have another property in Henrietta where we had a builder build our garages there, and he came over today to talk to us about what he would recommend we do. And because 4 of the entrances would be in the back, and then the rest would be in the front, he recommended that we put something on one side of the driveway for those people, and the 4 for the back on the other, and have them drive in, but then exit into the backyard so they can walk to their apartment. And make like a nice little park area for them. over there. So, you know, we'll talk to Dan about how to do that and how, I don't want people to have to walk a long distance. It's dangerous in the winter. It's not convenient. So we want to make it convenient for people too.
Okay. Board, other thoughts, comments? So this is in a residential zone, and you know, I think as we heard, as Jim laid it out, you know, this started out as a single family and then has been various versions of multifamily over the years. You know, one of the things that we have had conversations in that area is that certainly got a 4-lane highway. You've got a couple of structures with this structure in the Mary Cariola potential structure that is, you know, will never be put back into what I'll call single-family homes. I mean, it's just the way it's been designed and added onto and modified and things like that over the years. So I think the intent tonight was for Mary to come in and just talk about how that property could be used from a future state's standpoint, and make sure that this board was comfortable with that. Would require a use variance for that.
Well, not for her house.
Not for her house.
For the Carriola house,
Yeah.
but she's not
that
working
point.
with it yet.
Right.
So I think
But-
you're trying
but
to
certainly
get
as
this
we-
one.
Karen wasn't at the meeting the other night,
Yeah.
the other day.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay.
But that is a good point, Tony, because the Carriola house is the one we're really concerned about, because as you noted, it's not going to be a single-family home anymore. I'm anticipating somebody's going to be coming in and asking for a use variance for something else, which would be something other than residential, and there's an opportunity here at some point in the future to maybe turn that into a similar type of operation and tie it together and keep it residential, put it back into a residential setting, so.
Sounds good.
So I think, as Tony said, I think Mary's looking for some input just to see if you'd be comfortable with her. If, once she gets through the designation process, and it appears based on the letter that I've passed around, that the state is supportive of that
Did
happening.
it go around?
If you'd be supportive of moving forward with a special permit as you have with like the Clerk House and others, subject to, you know, it'd be a site plan review process with you and parking and garages and all that stuff you can put together, but.
Do you want to summarize a little bit the Historic Preservation Board and the memo that was presented?
Yes, you all did receive the memo, I hope. I did send it out. The Historic Preservation Board, as Paula noted, did meet the other night, and we did talk about various types of things that would be done on the site. The board's comment really was, you know, number one, we have to get designation. Number two, until we really see what it is you want to do through a certificate of appropriateness process, you know, I think that they're certainly supportive of getting the property designated. They would have to look at each and every proposal that Mary wants to make to them in terms of getting a certificate of appropriateness. But I think, generally speaking, you know, once they get the specifics about the garage designs and what she'd like to do with the outbuilding and all that business, I think that, you know, they're going to be supportive of trying to keep that building in good shape and you know, let her be a steward of the building for as long as she wants. So, yeah, you did get your memo. The memo basically says they support the designation, but they need more information about, you know, the niceties of what's going to happen before they can like move forward on that.
Yeah.
Comments, concerns,
Well,
issues?
this is excellent.
It's worth exploring
Yeah.
more.
It does. You know, as I say, Mary and I have been working for a long time on this, and you know, you look at our zoning map, and everything in gray is single-family residential, and obviously she's right about here. And the intent is to try to keep that residential and not worry about something coming in later on and becoming, you know, commercial
Burger
or
King.
office or, well, even office space. I mean, something that would not be a customary home occupation would be something that could start a process of going down the street that I don't think that we'd all want to see. So I think it's, you know, it's your effort to try and get that not to happen, and that's where we are with that.
We would take good care of it.
Yes. Well, certainly the work that you've done and the photos that you showed us as it relates to the property that you have in Vermont, you know, certainly is an indication of how that's worked, and you've had some very good success with that. You're really looking towards that higher end, so that not a flop house, as you know, someone said, but the professional that is here for a short period of time. want to have more of a family feel or a homey feel rather than a residence inn or, you know, some crammed in a dorm room someplace or something like that, so.
Yeah, we don't even allow smoking on our properties. We will not rent anywhere. We don't, there's none of this house smoke outside.
Yeah,
We just don't, no smoking.
no smoking period.
No
Yeah.
smoking.
Because of the proximity as well, you know, it's in our best interest.
I was just going to say,
Yeah, we live
being
right
right next door, so to speak, right? So,
We
very good.
overlook the property from our porch.
Okay, good, good. Staff, any additional comments that haven't been entered into the record that you believe should be added into the record?
No, as I say, I support the effort to try and go to the site and take a look at it on the 21st. If you can make it, I recognize everybody works. It's difficult to do that, but and I think you're probably going to look for a letter from the board stating that they've reviewed the process with you and then would allow you to move forward if everything comes to fruition with the state and the National Registry.
It would be great. It would be very helpful.
And
Okay.
certainly anything that you would need regarding that designation, you know, if there's anything we need to provide or can provide to supplement
Yeah.
or
Well,
encourage that.
I actually just have to do my draft because it's already been accepted. It just hasn't been completed. The hearing will be in December. So I have to have my draft in by October 1st.
Where are they doing the hearing?
I'm not sure. I think in Albany.
Actually, in Albany.
Yeah.
I mean, that would make some
And Virginia
sense.
said there'd be no problem getting it approved. I mean, it's original. It is. I mean, I know it needs work, and you have to be able to look beyond. I mean, some people, like our contractor, was like, "Oh, I can't believe you're thinking of doing this," but you have to look beyond that because it is really a nice piece of property.
So I guess my recommendation would be just continue to work with Dan, get some plans together for the board to look at after you get the designation intact, and then let the process start in terms of the special permit.
So I have a question about that. If we, what you're saying is that we have to have the federal designation before we can,
Well, you have to have verification that's been designated. We can't,
Okay.
the ordinance doesn't allow us, or doesn't allow this board to make any approvals for commercial use until the designation is in place.
okay,
So we have to have that, but that gives you time now to get the stuff done in terms of reviewing the interior, figuring out what you want it to look like and what has to be done to meet state code, and then what you want to do in terms of the exterior improvements as well.
and we can go ahead and do all the repairs on the exterior and all that. You don't care about any of that?
You can...
Because it really needs to be buttoned up.
Yeah, I would suggest you meet with the building inspectors. You know, Andy will be there with you on the 21st, and he can give you an idea of what's cosmetic versus what's structural, what might need a remodeling permit, what might not. That'll help you a little bit too, because if you don't need a permit and you're doing cosmetic things, you can go ahead and start doing that.
Okay. All right.
December isn't that far away either, so...
Yeah, in the weather, that's when the weather's
Yeah,
coming, so.
yeah.
So, you know, just once again, for those that might have the interest and ability to attend, next Thursday, 21st, 9 a.m.,
9 a.m.
right at the site. So if anyone is able to do that, I think it would be good, at least for a few of us. And I know I've got it on my calendar, so that I think it would be good for a few of us to see that.
Has anyone, besides Jim, who's been in the house?
I've never been in there. I was curious
I
about
went
it.
for sleepovers when I was a kid. I'm very good friends with Kate Foster. who's-
Oh, really?
that's really
Robert
nice.
Robert
Forster's
Forster's-
last name is
Yeah.
really Foster.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Because I just, you know, I would just reiterate what everyone has said, that come over on the 21st. It's really, you know, Mary's the visionary in all of this, but, and even I can see the potential of this building. I mean, once you're in there, you can see, yes, you could almost put it together yourself. It's really
Yeah.
amazing. It calls for this. So I think you'll see that once you're there.
Great. Good.
Appreciate
Thank you
your
for coming in. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Look
Thank you
forward
very much.
to the visit next week.
Okay, great,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thanks for
very
your
much.
time. Thank you. Okay, we will move on to our second item, and that's Mike Amico for discussion regarding timing of paving for Windsor Ridge Development. And I think Mike has brought our friends from Marathon Engineering. Now you're able to speak, sir.
Yeah, sorry about that. My wife always tells me to speak up, so I thought I could whisper one last instruction. Anyways,
Caught again.
it's been many years, but anyways. It is good to see you all again. Thank you for allowing us to come in. I'm here on behalf of Combat Construction. This is Mike D'Amico, who actually is Combat Construction, but he also has one of our shirts, and maybe that's all that was the laundry today. But anyways,
It's an engineer tonight.
oh, I don't know. Where's I going for? Anyways, the Windsor Ridge subdivision. I'm not going to bore you with details, but I can go into it if you'd like. It is currently under construction. It is done very well. All the lots in Section 1 have been sold. Many of them have been built. Mike had come in and gotten approval for, originally it was going to be Section 2, subsection 2A and 2B, Section 3, subsections 3A and 3B. Total is 65 lots. Due to the fact the sales and everything is going well, that is all being constructed at this time. So what we had approval for, and this is what the shaded areas, the section of road, that's the houses that are currently in Section 1. We are then building this, and this is ready to be bindered in the very near future, and then we're going to complete this, hopefully before winter. Now Mike has put together a schedule, and we are here tonight asking for an extension. There's some certain dates that are codified. For example, the top has to be down by October 15th, and that will happen for this section. The binder was placed before last winter, and there are certain sections of the gutter that needed to be repaired and or replaced, and he's worked that out with town, so that will be topped in the next month or so and meet that deadline. We anticipate having binder placed on approximately this portion, Section 2, if you will, also, certainly in the next few weeks. That's what it looks like it's going to be. The concern is, as we continue to build the Section 3 road out, Mike has a schedule, we can go into it in detail week by week, but basically, the November 15th requirement that's in the town code is about 8 weeks away. Mike can explain, we've got 6.5 weeks of work laid out right now. That starts to bump us up against that deadline, so in anticipation, we thought we'd ask for a 3-week extension. Now, it may not be necessary, but we want to put it out, and that's what we're requesting, December 5th, to allow us 3 weeks in order to complete it. Now, the benefit would be, by allowing us to do all of this and put the binder down by December 5th, we avoid installation of a temporary turnaround. It allows us to complete the circle. It makes for a much better traffic pattern, not just for the school buses, but also the snowplows and any emergency vehicles. Why are we asking for the extension? Well, there's some bedrock. It's taken a little longer than ever anticipated to get through some of this. And so we're up against it just a little bit. One concern may be, gee, if I put it down, what's going to happen? Well, two things. Mike has identified a supplier that has heated trucks. So the asphalt, even being placed then, will be in good shape. The other is, remember, this is binder. We still have to come in and do the top coat next year. And certainly, if there should be, and we don't anticipate, but if there are any sections of the binder that didn't quite adhere and are not up to snuff, they'll be identified, repaired, replaced, and remediated before the top goes on. So this is not the top or the final coat. So respectfully, we ask for an extension to December 5th to allow us to put the binder down at that date for Windsor Ridge subdivision.
Okay. So I'll make the first comments only just to remain consistent. I have consistently been the person that has voted against these. And we have the specs and the reason for the specs. I get the fact that Mother Nature plays a factor. I get the fact bedrock and a number of other things. But I have been consistent to say, we put the specs in place, and I believe that we should stick to those specifications. If in fact, the board is comfortable with moving forward with this, one of the things that I have encouraged is that we have extended bonding periods so that we protect the town, the interest of the town and the town residents, and that they be bonded for a longer period of time than maybe 1 year. We may be looking for multiple years. So I just wanted to make sure you heard that directly, from myself, because that has, again, been something I've been very consistent in, both as a town board member and as the town supervisor. So with that, I'll open it up for the board's discussion, comments.
We've done this before, they extended.
We have allowed it before, and I think always our one caveat is obviously it's weather dependent. So, the board has extended it. I know we've even had stuff heated and everything else, but I think, at least on the engineering side of it, it's if the weather's there or not. I mean, we get an early snow come the end of November and the weather turns and we're freezing,
They're
I
not
think,
gonna do it then.
well, I think staff would have a concern about, stuff being placed, when it's below freezing temperatures. Normally, I think we're 35 and rising. On day of placement, it definitely helps having heated trucks and making sure it's open. Obviously, if the weather turns early and there's no state projects going on, getting asphalt is going to be another complication that they'd have to work on. They may close the plants early, so.
Well, did we have a call on that? If we allowed it to extend and then the weather got really cold and the town can't come out and say, we can't do it now because it's too cold to put the binder down?
Well, I mean, I think that's up to you. If you say, well, allow till December 15th, as long as it meets the temperature specs,
Well, that's
then
actually,
that's kind of at his risk, is if, some years we have nice weather, it's 50 degrees in November, December, it's fine, there's no issues, we go on, but, I mean, I think you
I
could place
guess
that caveat on there is,
Linda's question, my question when I was listening is, have we granted an extension this far in advance before? I mean, it seems...
no, and I mean, I actually, to their benefit, they're coming out ahead of it. I talked to Larry Fallone, who works with Mike, and he goes, we just want a plan B. If things go as we have it planned, it'll go in fine, we don't have an issue. So I actually applaud them from coming in sooner. Usually we got people coming in November 14th saying, hey, I'm not gonna make it, and then there's a concern of what we can do. Obviously, Mike's gonna do the best he can in the weather that he's got, and it's his best interest, and cost-wise, heated trucks are a cost. All the other stuff's a cost, so for him to keep working away and get it in the nice weather and get the binder down is cheaper and easier for him. It's
Have you heard,
Well, the alternative would be next spring.
Right.
When that was the original plan for this section, correct?
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
Okay, I just want to make
home
sure that
sales are-
it's...
No, we had all 65 lots approved at one time, and we planned on building them this year.
Yeah, the planning board has
The
approved
plan was
the
to
whole.
build the loop road, everything this year?
Because the sales were
When
so
they
much.
came in, yes. Originally, 2 years ago, when they came in as a preliminary application, it was a 1, 2, and 3. Since section 1 sold out so fast, they were already selling into section 2. The planning board approved basically as all as section 2. So it did go forward as a full section 2. Whether he phased it by construction or not, was his purview.
do you have any indication as to when the asphalt plants are gonna close based on state contracts or whatever might be happening?
Normally, it's December 5th in that area.
So, yeah, if it's
so
December
far
5th
out
this year,
right now.
that's gonna be your last day anyways, no matter what.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is weather dependent. I mean, if you got a foot of snow on the ground, you're probably not gonna be paving that road no matter what. If it's a nice warm day, which it could be, it was last year, it would make more sense to have that kind of a situation than to go in there and try and put something in that's gonna be a problem for you later on.
Well, and I don't disagree with the supervisor. I think we'd have to have some, assuming it's a Plan B, have some real assurances in there, because what has not been noted is this is going to be a dedicated road, correct?
Right,
To
right.
the town.
Yes.
So it's not a private road, so if something happens, extended bonds for sure, 4 or 5 years, because if something happens, the town cannot be left holding the bag for a rush job by a developer.
Well, I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out exactly, if the plan was to do this all this year, then why does it sound like we're behind schedule? I'm just trying to figure out...
It's been a very rainy season.
Okay, but...
When we had the
again-
blaster out there this spring, it was so wet, when he drilled the holes for the blasting, the dirt was so wet, it was falling in the hole. And so when he blasted, it didn't come out as well as we had the year prior. So right now, we're dealing with cap rock that we can't get through, and rock in the bottom that we're hole ramming. And it's taking us, a normal stretch of sanitary sewer, which would take us about 300 feet, might take us a day, we just spent 12 days on. So we're falling behind. I'm not going to say anything about the weather. It was, really wet spring, but that really had nothing to do with it other than the blasting has slowed us up. And so we're doing our best. I think
realistically, right now, we're about halfway through the sanitary sewer. If we can finish the sanitary sewer by the end of next week, and then we spend 2 weeks on the storm sewer and 2 weeks on the water main, that would still leave us 3 more weeks to get the gutters in and get it paved. Do I think we can do it? I do. Am I worried about it? A little bit, but that's where I'm here. I do think I can get it done before the deadline of the 15th. But just gonna throw this out there. In the past, because I've developed almost every subdivision up and down 5 Mile Line Road, when I developed Winchester Woods in 1993, we got to this point where the supervisor had a new house being built in there, and we were supposed to get that done, and so Dick Vendel at the time said, Mike, no, don't pave the road, you're done, it's over, November 15th, you can't pave it. And because I'm a longtime resident of town, I listened to him and did exactly what he told me to do. A week later, they let Monroe Roadways pave another road, and when Monroe Roadways said, they said, well, you can't pave that road, Monroe Roadways said, you know what? We're gonna have our own engineer come out, certify the depth, certify that it was done right, and they did it. The town had no recourse against them because there was nothing wrong with the asphalt. I mean, the colder temperatures didn't do anything to it. They completed it regardless of what the town wanted them to do, did not want them to do it. They still did it. The road didn't come out. I actually never did another job for Primark Homes after that because Jim Barbados was so mad at me for not getting the road in that year. And he needed to, when he bought Winchester Woods, he needed to get into Sherwood Forest to the pumping station. I had built that subdivision. I had told the town at the time we needed to blast out 200 feet out from the pumping station. The town did not want to do it. When he needed to come in, he couldn't get into the pumping station, so he actually gave me that job because I had the right of way to get to the sewer. And I wasn't his contractor. His contractor was Monroe Roadways. Later, when he showed them that they got the job done and I didn't, I never did another job for them. And to this day, I'm still angry about it. But I did what the town told me to do, and I don't really think the town has, based on what happened there, the right to tell me that I can't do it. I will do what you tell me to do. Be a long-time resident of town, but in the past, it's bit me.
Okay.
I will simply say, again, that there are certain conditions and it does have to meet, the specs of the road. And so, whatever we do, regardless of the date, that will happen. And I'll also remind that, again, it's the binder. And there will be an opportunity, and most times, should there be any inadequacy in the binder installation, whether it happens in April, July, or November, December, it shows up. And it would certainly, in a relatively near fashion, and it would certainly show up after a winter, so that before the top is installed and it becomes accepted for dedication, if there were any problems, there would be an opportunity to be identified and rectified, which is the key point.
Now, who does that inspection? Do we do that inspection if it's going to be dedicated?
Yes, we would be out there,
in the
whether
spring?
either my staff or Eric and the DPW staff, so one of the two departments would be out there. And that's, from the staff side of it, November 15th is just a date that's out there. The conditions, the weather, the temperature is more of our concern on our side. If the weather's there for it and, things are fine and we've got good weather, then, it can be done in a quality job and be put down well. If the temperatures are freezing and the ground is wet and we've got snow on the ground, then either he needs to heat it, do other things to do that. It's just more effort to get prepped. But if a properly prepped dry base that's been compacted with the right temperatures outside, a good job, could be done after November 15th. So I look at more of as a, as Eric said, meeting the spec and meeting our requirements and meeting the standards that we would accept.
Okay. Other discussion, board? Path forward?
And I would support it, with the understanding it meets the specs, the weather dependent, the temperature dependent, that your office has something to do with that, like he said, he'll probably have it done anyway, but I can understand, I can appreciate coming in early, you know, and it depends on the weather. It'd be good to get the binder down there for the reasons Eric mentioned about the snow plows and school buses and everything. It'd be better to have something down if they can do it.
And the possibility of an extended bond condition, I think, we need those assurances. I'd
So
support it with
typically,
those
we take a
assurances.
2-year bond. I think we've taken a 3-year in the past on other developments. We've just held it, 1 year longer just to make sure if there are any defects that come up.
Yeah, that would be my concern, is just having that
covered.
assurance, since it will be a dedicated road.
Yes.
Tony, when is our next work session?
27th.
27th. What prevents us from tabling this till the 27th and then reassessing where combat construction is with their progress between now and the 27th? And then make a decision on the 27th, hoping that the weather over the next couple of weeks is relatively okay and they can keep to the schedule that you just laid out, without making a decision today, when we can kind of see what happens over the next couple of weeks and then address it on the 27th.
Certainly can, you certainly can do that. The board,
I would second Andy's. In my experience, if you're given 3 extra weeks to do something, you're going to take the 3 weeks to do something. So it's, I think, a little premature to ask for the extension. If you're shooting for a November 15th deadline, then I think that's what you should shoot for. I don't think tabling this for 2 weeks to see where they are is going to matter much. So I would agree with tabling this.
It's not going to affect the way the job is done or the way we approach it. We quite honestly just didn't want to be one of those people coming in, okay, the day before saying, I didn't make it. Why didn't you let us know? So, it's a chicken egg. We would certainly be willing to come back then, or even 2 weeks after that, or 4 weeks. Because again, we're talking about the November 15th. We've surfaced the issue. If you would like us to come back in approximately 4 weeks at the November
October.
the October 13th, to talk about a November date, extension date. Again, we'd be willing to do that. We're just trying to get ahead of it, if you will, and simply discussing it with you has satisfied that objective.
and I'll echo what Mark said earlier. Certainly, we appreciate having this dialogue now versus having the dialogue on the 13th of November, when the crocodile tears are the size of basketballs, and everybody's complaining that the town is holding them up. So, on behalf of the board and staff, certainly we appreciate having this dialogue today versus a day or two before the expiration of what the specs call for. So, if you're willing.
Yeah, and October still is a month ahead of, because again, we're asking for the November extension. The October one for the top coat, we're not worried about.
Okay.
I would offer that we do it a month from now and, allow.
Come in on the 11th of October.
Fine, I'm good with that.
So, Andy, you're willing to make that motion?
I will.
Okay, and seconded by Rob?
Yep.
And those in favor of tabling until the October 11th meeting? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, then we will, sounds like we'll have some more dialogue in mid-October. Good luck with the weather. Hopefully the rock becomes easier, softer, and the weather stays drier, nicer.
All right, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. I would like to, before we move on to action items, I would just like to go back to our guest and that application with Mary Wynn. And so in keeping with our town attorney, I would like a motion and a second for us, to support moving forward with a special permit for that application at 2567 Browncroft Boulevard.
I'll make a motion that we proceed with the application process for
Thank you.
2567.
I second that.
Thank you. All right, and those in favor, aye? Opposed? All right, thank you. We'll keep our town attorney's happy and because on the straight and narrow. We'll move on to action items. We have the Allen's Creek erosion design estimate, Barton and Loguidice. This is not a new topic before the board, but certainly one that continues to require a lot of dialogue. And so with that, Mark, if you would kind of tee it up from there.
Thank you. Obviously, as the supervisor shared, we've been before the board many times on this project. Earlier this summer, we did have a chance to walk the site with Barton and Loguidice, take a look at the conditions out there. They had done back in 2012 kind of a concept sketch of what could be done in that stream, looking at the erosion, looking at the issues that are out there. They've submitted this proposal for your consideration. Going through it, first is doing a site survey, so actually getting a survey topo done out there, identifying what's in the stream, where we have erosion, the elevations, the grades, the cross-section of the topography, assessing the existing conditions in the area. Then as part of that, the deliverable to us is giving us actually that site map and site location. Then moving into a natural design, so we're not looking at armoring the whole thing, but putting in weirs and J-hooks and other things to meet that natural state and habitat that's out there. One, obviously, that's something that's supported by DEC and Army Corps. They'd like to see more of a natural approach than let's make a concrete channel down through there. One, not very attractive to, not very environmentally conscious. So they would work through some design aspects for it, submit those on a 30% phase to the town. Staff could look at them, share them back with the board. If staff and the board are okay with it, then move in, starting to have some conversations with the neighbors, share with them the thoughts and how that would go. Once the neighbors are engaged, obviously we'd have to do some wetland delineation out there, get into the actual regulatory part of it, making the application to the DEC and Army Corps and going through the permitting process with that, the joint application. We would have neighborhood meetings. They also have identified endangered species, so we would sit down with the neighbors, whether here or out in the field, walk it with them, share what the thoughts are, what the expectation is, look at locations we can get access. We'll have to negotiate some different opportunities to get in there for it. So they've put together a comprehensive package that then takes us into the public meetings, going through the secret process, and then on into actually creating the bid document. So after getting approvals, they would do the bid documents for us. We could put it out to bid. They would assist us with the pre-construction meeting. The only piece not included in their proposal here is the construction end of it. So whether, depending on who the contractor is, whether we do that in-house, whether we re-engage them at that point in time. But basically their proposal here is comprehensive from topography through approvals and then even through the bidding process, pre-construction meeting and everything else. So. And then as you move towards the last page, they kind of show an approximate time frame. They've got October 1st on the execution part of it. That's why we're bringing it into the board to look at tonight, and then kind of working through the fall through some of the concept designs, getting their mapping done, working on more design through the winter, meeting with the neighbors, and then hopefully moving through the approval process next year. Whether we're into September, my thoughts, it's going to take a little longer to get through the approval process than what they have. I'm thinking more of a construction 2019. As we've done in the past, I think we can get some better bids coming out in spring of a season, bid it over the winter, and then come out, in the springtime when the contractors are hungry and, looking for work. That might be a nice time to come out with a project, but kind of digress into some of the design end of it. But did want to, share that with you and what their costs are. This currently would fit under our budget we have this year for the drainage budget. We didn't have as many big projects this year. We've done a lot. We've utilized our DPW crews, so we've saved some costs, subcontracting some of those out. We've done some internal design. That's also saved some costs. So I think this year we can fit this under our drainage budget as it is, and we wouldn't be looking for any additional funding. And then if this carried over into next year, obviously we'd carry that funds over and work with finance to hold that,
Encumber money.
hold that contract going into 2018.
Mark, I was just going to ask that, are the funds that we expend this year or maybe into next year, would that be reimbursable if we were to obtain a state grant at some point?
Possibly, and that's part of, obviously, this is a big commitment by the town board for that. But we started looking at some grants last year. Some are matching grants, so 50-50 grants or other things, but there are some things that we can look at. Now is kind of the time. A lot of the grants last year were doing the January to February timeframe. So if the town board's okay with this and committed to this, we can look at going into the fall as really seeing what we can get for grants for that. We're working with the town of Brighton, keeping them in the loop. They're looking at doing something up in the upper reaches in their area, so we've engaged Mike Guyon, the town engineer from Brighton, got him in the loop. Most recently, as of Monday night, Paul and I sat with the watershed committee, shared with them the proposal, and also kind of ran through what's going on. We did our drainage walk back in June with them, showed them the hillside that slid down. They were surprised. The pictures don't do it justice of how big of a hill that came down. You look at the pictures and go, oh, well, that looks like a lot. When you look up 75, 100 feet and see an entire hillside come down.
And the different types of erosion that are occurring in Allen's Creek.
Yeah, and then you go in another backyard, and most areas the creek is 20 feet wide, and one backyard it's probably 75 to 100 and creeping back. Jeff's been back there. Obviously this has been going on for a while. They put a stake 10 feet from the edge to kind of document where it was. She said the stake fell in earlier this spring, and it's continuing to widen out. So the creek's unfortunately not happy with the conditions as they are right now. It's trying to find different ways to move, and when it starts to move, it either erodes into the hillside or it starts eroding into people's backyards,
dumping a big.
or there's deposits of soil and rocks. And
When's the last time an extensive effort was done to the creek bed by the town or any entity?
Allen's Creek?
Yeah.
Nothing in my recollection. I mean, we've done some Band-Aids. I mean, that was just a Band-Aid. We went in when that whole hillside came down. Obviously, we just had to get the earth out of there, physically blocked the creek entirely, and then bypassed it around. So we've kind of done some Band-Aids here and there, but we've not done a holistic work to that.
Even when we did that, when we first reached out to the DEC, their first question was, could you do that by hand? So if
We
you...
don't reroute anything.
Sure. We're all the kids with our buckets.
There's 5-foot diameter trees, and they're like, can you do it with chainsaws and by hand? I'm like, I'm not that strong. I can't pick up that tree. But
So I think even the DEC really didn't fully appreciate how...
I say in the photos,
how
you
big,
try
how
to
bad.
capture that, and it's hard to show, how big a blockage that was. But as I said, even Brighton's experienced some erosion up into the park. They've got on their end, so they're looking at doing something as well. And if we could do a conjoint project, one that may be better for some grant funding, if we could do something joined with towns. We've been working, actually Mike D'Amico with his excess rock. He's been looking to get rid of some. We're stockpiling some for this project. We've got so much rock, I'd hate to see us buy rocks to put in later on. So he's looking to get rid of it, so we've taken an opportunity to take some of it, stockpile those, all different sizes, so when we're ready to go, the contractor has them, they can just work on placing them and not buying materials for us.
The other thing I was going to add was, as Mark mentioned, that this is certainly on the radar of the Watershed Management Committee as late as Monday, talking about paths forward for certain drainage projects, so they're fully aware of this and certainly aware of the problems that have existed there from an erosion standpoint.
Okay. Next steps, if the board is comfortable, would be to move forward with preparation of a resolution authorizing Barton and Loguidice to continue on with Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3. And again, it will be, again, roughly from early October to, into the summer to have everything completed, even to be, considered to go out for bid on anything. And again, knowing permit process and how things work and dealing with another community, all those tend to a week here and a week there, so it's probably more of a 2019 construction. But getting this work done, I think, continues to show our interest to do the right thing for the drainage of that area and to protect, the properties around that stream.
I'll make a motion that we proceed as proposed.
Is-
in the-
Yeah, I'm sorry, Paul, go ahead.
As proposed in the August 7th proposal from Barton and Loguidice.
Okay.
Is this in 2016 or 2017 budget?
This would be in the 2017 budget. We've got money in the drainage, as Mark had indicated.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we do have it in
Okay.
17, and whatever would be left over that we did not complete in 17, we would look to carry over into 18 as encumbered dollars, to complete that work.
Okay,
So as not to negatively impact 18.
okay.
I'll second.
Okay, so it's been moved and second. Any further discussion, staff, any additional items we should put into the record that's not there? Okay, so this would be a voice vote. A motion and a second to prepare a resolution to authorize Barton and Loguidice to continue to move forward with phase 1, 2, 3 on Allen's Creek. Seeing no further discussion, voice vote. Those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Thank you, Mark. The next item is 2328 Old Browncroft Boulevard, Glendoveers. And we talked about this now a number of weeks ago. Mark gave us a courtesy heads up as an informational item. And we now have a little bit more detail. And so with that, if you would, Mark.
Yeah, I'll say just kind of set the stage, and then Randy Bukout is here from T.Y. Lin, can answer any questions on the design if something comes up on that. I was here a couple of weeks, probably a month ago, talking about Glendoveers. They've gone to the zoning board now. The zoning board currently has their application tabled pending planning board action as well as action from this board. The planning board had a sketch plan application, went through preliminary final. We're still waiting for some responses. We were working with the county of Monroe as kind of on the northwest. There's a drainage discharge to their property, so we're working with county parks as well as our property, which is along Old Browncroft. So I've kind of highlighted in red the boundaries or the limits of where they're showing some grading, which would be in the Old Browncroft right away. That hill is currently a well-vegetated hill that's on there. They're looking to create some more parking for their restaurant and party house down there. As we all know, it's a very limited and a very busy road that they have. People often parking on both sides of it. So there's definitely a need for the parking. They've tried to limit the parking. It's kind of a balance between more parking versus more grading. But it is an impact to the right-of-ways, therefore it needs approval by the town board. Not sure your thoughts, concerns. I know last time we talked about making sure trail access was maintained. That is kind of a trailhead right here. There's a berm right about where it says Old Browncroft on it. There's a berm there, so it's no longer an open passable road at this point, but there's hiking access that goes back into Lucian Moran Park and then ties into the county facilities from there.
So what Mark is looking for is, because there is proposed work within our right-of-way, are we okay with that? And then what might we be looking for by way of bringing that back to what we'd like to see it as, and any other items. And if the board is not comfortable with work in the right-of-way, then that has the T.Y. Lin engineers going back and looking at some other plans, designs, or other things.
It's retaining walls, cutting back the amount of parking. There's some other options to that. The grading of the berm. Mike thought, at least with some revegetation of that slope, just so the cars and the vehicles aren't visible. There is still going to be a berm there, but to decrease visibility of the cars and the parking lot back there is, whether the board wanted to see a replanting plan on, at least that portion of it. Obviously, they got to revegetate the slope to prevent against erosion, but
Can you discuss it? Is the staff in the project review committee?
I mean, PRC's been going through it. Again, we're trying to find the balance as well. It is a hill that's being taken down. There is a significant amount of grading that needs to be done for it. We've got concerns, obviously, for, the environmental impact. As I shared last time, our only bridge that we own in town is just to the west of it, so that will be a condition of the planning board's approval, that they do a pre-assessment of the bridge, as well as a post-assessment if they're hauling sand out of this hill over it, to make sure that the truck traffic doesn't damage the hill. So, it is a balance. We understand his needs, wants, desires, but, also
So
thinking
it
sure.
shows that maybe in their ballpark right now, it's better to wait for the planning board to see, I mean,
Well, I think the planning board, if the town board out and out says no, don't touch our right of way, obviously they have to push that grading off. So
Yeah.
either they have to cut out a row of parking, move their stuff over, they have to put in a retaining wall. So there's
So what's
some,
before, the planning board has this, includes work in the easement, so they need to go ahead.
in the right of way,
for that.
yeah,
Or
it's
in the
not
right of way,
a,
I'm sorry.
yep.
That they need to go ahead for that before the
So,
planning board.
the planning board has other items they're waiting for, so this isn't the only item. But if the town board says no work in the right of way, don't do anything, that will change their design, their plans, and then obviously the planning board would be looking at something different. So they couldn't approve this, without your,
I'd like to know what PRC, I'd like some formal review by PRC
Yeah,
and some
I know.
recommendation to us, other than the project review committee being just aware of it. I don't know if that, is, I don't know what concerns
Yeah,
would
because
stem
what,
from that.
I would agree, what's the work that, I just see this red circle, what is the proposed work to remove? Or to create the hill there?
I just want to expand sort of on what you touched on. So
And again, for the
Randy
record-
Bebout with TY Len.
Thank you, Randy.
So this plan shows grading in the right-of-way. So as part of the grading, we're going to remove some vegetation. We're grading in the right-of-way. As Mark said, there would still be a berm there that separates the old Browncroft Boulevard and the new parking lot. To do this project without grading in the right-of-way, there's really two things. One is reducing the amount of parking, and if you look at the plan, there's 16 spaces on that side that we're potentially losing, which is almost half of the addition, which is 37 spaces. So we're kind of defeating we're not gaining really what we need to gain to avoid the situation of the excessive amount of cars parking on the road. The alternative is doing so if we looked at it and said we eliminated those spaces, we potentially still need grading in the right-of-way and or a retaining wall. If we didn't eliminate any spaces, the only way to prevent grading in the right-of-way is to build this wall. And I'm not involved in this project, I'm kind of filling in, but I was studying this before I came to the meeting. We'd be looking at a retaining wall that's about 10 feet high, probably more than 100 feet long, and at $25 a square foot, it gets very expensive for the amount of spaces that we're gaining. So to your comment, it's just the work in the right-of-way is grading. We're going to remove vegetation, as Mark commented. We're going to have a plan to reestablish that vegetation, and that work is kind of consistent around we're kind of creating this bowl, if you will, of the dirt that's coming out.
When you say grading, what you're doing is really pushing the hill into the...
We're excavating the slope, so,
right now, it's a big mountain, they're basically taking the
yeah,
middle of the mountain
if the
out.
hill is like this, we're making the hill like this, so that the top of the hill, if you will, is a little bit narrower than it is today.
Okay. So where would the retaining wall go, on that side of the right-of-way?
Well, if the board said that...
No work in the right-of-way
If
at
the
all.
board said no work in the right-of-way, the retaining wall would have to be
Have to
on
be,
on our side.
in this area like this.
The challenge of that is if
Maybe
you...
one if we approve the work in the
You'd have to have something like the blue line as a retaining wall on their side, and then the grades fit out from there, but obviously it gets pretty tall pretty fast.
And the challenge of building a retaining wall that close to the property line at 10 foot high is you're going to need a wall. Typically, you would build a segmental block wall that's going to need reinforcement behind it. So now, how do we do that? Because we're right on the property line, or we're near the property line.
and significant disturbance to what's there already to
Randy,
install.
for the board's sake, if you were to be allowed to work within the right-of-way, what would the height of the berm be and what would the width be at the base of the board, just to get a feel for that? Just generally speaking.
The height of the berm from the road is going to be, I mean, it varies. In some instances, it's only going to be a few feet, and in others, it's probably going to be 5 or 6 feet from the roadside. From the parking lot side, it's much higher than that. The top width of that berm, again, varies from a few feet wide to, I'm going to say, 8 to 10 feet wide.
And we can go back to PRC and ask for some specific recommendations. I mean, I think,
Yeah, I feel like I need a little more direction.
some planting, some revegetation, but we can come back with, here's PRC's recommendation for it. Come back to the work session on the 27th.
Yeah, I say a brief tabling period to have it back as soon as we can have it.
And then
back.
if the board
Could
wants
you
to-
also then provide just
a little
I'm just-
cross-section?
Yeah, I mean, what the topography is today, and then this one's sufficient for what the proposal is, but I'm just trying to read all the lines and kind of get a sense of.
We can have them provide a cross-section this way, so you can see the hill's going up now this way. Now it's gonna kind of come down, and then it's go down into a bowl.
Thank you.
over
I'm
here.
just trying to have I'm just having a hard time
No,
visualizing.
it's hard to visualize, but
So,
yeah, but
that-
we're cutting the slope is really what we're doing and to get the parking lot to fit in there.
Would it be
It's hard to
helpful
visualize because there is
visit
so
the
much
site?
vegetation there, it's hard to.
Just think of basils or something.
And maybe a few photos.
Sure.
Just, I mean, we can always go down there and take a look at it.
Right.
Well,
Yeah, if you haven't been, certainly would encourage you
Yeah.
just to take a look, at that and where, where the building is today and where the parking is, and you'll be able to see, what this looks like as you start to head up, what the old Browncroft Boulevard. And you'll also see where the trails are,
We
cut
could go
it
down
down.
with you if you want to just.
Yeah, and as you're sitting in the parking lot that's there today, the hill is kind of going up higher away from you, so we're creating this almost like an amphitheater, if you will, in there, that we're cutting this bowl out.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily opposed to this. I agree with Paul, just a little additional information
Great.
would be helpful for me to make that final decision, but I'm not entirely opposed
It's also
to.
helpful that we get more information because when, work starts to be done, if we get questions, we can adequately answer residents if they're wondering what's going on
Okay.
and why.
Someone like to make a motion to table?
I'll motion to.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Get, Mark, you're comfortable, Randy, you're comfortable with what the board is looking for by way of a little bit more information and some feedback from PRC as well? All right, the voice vote, those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, Randy, thanks for coming in. Tell Bobby he owes you lunch or something.
That's all right. Everybody was busy tonight.
Everybody was busy. All right, very good. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item C. This is a request for area variance to allow storage shed at 2074 5 Mile Line Road. We heard that last week, and Mr. Costello, anything new or different that has come in since the public hearing that you'd like to make the board aware of?
Nothing new, but I'll refresh the board's memory. Mr. Richardson, Wayne Richardson, represents the Finney School. Finney School abuts the single-family residential zoning district. He's in the Four Corners district. There's a requirement of a 50-foot buffer from any construction. He's proposing to build a 12 by 20 square foot shed. I did meet with the fire marshal. He is proposing a 2-hour fire rating on his shed so he can abut it next to the building. That would require him to have a 38-foot setback, requiring a 12-foot variance. So I have not heard from any of the neighbors. All the neighbors were notified. They're abutting the school, but I haven't heard a word pro or con in that regard. So with that, I know that Tony had brought up some questions about the color scheme of the shed. And I think you're more than willing to paint the shed somewhat consistent with the color of the school or close to it, or a brown, and roofing darker to give it more of an earth tone type effect.
Sure.
And we're not going to be blocking any access points. I can't believe you remembered that from your childhood. It is,
Horrible memories running those
wow.
stairs, man.
So, I don't have anything else for the board.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I'm fine with
Significant
what
information.
you said, Jim.
All
I
right.
move that we grant the area variance to allow a storage shed at the Finney School, 2074 5 Mile Line Road.
I'll second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion in addition to what cause kind of highlighted by way of color, not only the siding, but also the roof area as well.
Fire rating.
And fire rating.
Building permits, all that good stuff.
Okay.
Yep.
Any, I'm sorry?
We have a motion.
Yep.
We need to vote, right?
Yep, so, anything else that we should have from a staff standpoint that we haven't discussed
We're all set.
regarding this? Wayne, anything, any questions on your end as it relates to what was being proposed by the board by way of?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Do you have a preferred color?
Well, I think what the discussion that the board had had is to have it blend pretty much consistent with the building as best you can. You may not be able to match it perfectly, but I think the interest was instead of having a dark building and then having this bright white storage shed, are you able to blend that in more with in keeping with the building itself?
Like a red brick stain?
Yeah.
It's fine. Why don't we do this? Why don't we, not to hold you up in any way, but why don't you pick some colors that you like, submit those to me via email if you want. I can send them out to the board, pick your preferred color, let them look at it just to make sure everybody's comfortable, and then you can go from there.
I defer to Tony on his decision of color swatches.
Yeah, as long as the applicant has the understanding of trying to make it look
Yeah.
Like the school color.
like the school colors, I'm fine with that. I don't need to sit there and
Green
pick
and
colors.
Please don't, please don't, I'm hoping my wife isn't watching tonight's proceeding and I'm expected to know anything about color. I'll be in that big tapioca. All right, we will work with Wayne, Jim and I will work with Wayne, and we'll look to get that match as close as possible, so. All right, so there's been a motion to approve, subject to a number of conditions. It's been seconded.
With a resolution on
That is correct.
October first meeting. in
October 4th, that is correct. So, again, seeing no additional comments or questions, those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion's carried. We'll see a resolution on the 4th, and we'll work with Wayne on the color component. That might be something that, again, depending upon timing of the year, might be more appropriate in the springtime, again, depending upon, when things get constructed, weather, so on and so forth.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay. This brings us to item D. This is a request for conditional use permit to allow outdoor entertainment at 2164 Fairport 9 Mile Point Road. Again, we had the hearing last Wednesday. Christy is back to join us. Welcome. And Jim, I will ask you, is there anything new, different that has come in since the public hearing that you'd like to update the board on?
No, other than the fact that Christy was addressing refuse hauling trucks last week for me, and there was another issue, had nothing to do with Christy. We have a resident in the audience who's been working with me to solve that problem on other sites in the area, and they are being resolved as well. So
Okay.
that's the latest and greatest.
Very good, thank you. Board, questions, comments, thoughts, next steps?
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to throw out for consideration tonight my kind of proposal. After Christy came in the other day, I went to Jeremiah's with my family. I've been there a handful of times since it's been open. But I went there with my family, and then I went there also on my own to just kind of, listen again with sounds. And I think that certainly that the applicant is open to a compromise with what we talked about last at the town board meeting, or the meeting that we had the other day. And I'd like to propose that we move ahead with allowing acoustical music on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I know the applicant was looking at doing it 7 days a week, but I think that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday would be a good start. And that would be acoustical, not amplified music, but acoustical only.
What hours? Sorry.
I believe the hours that we were discussing, I think the hours that I would propose at least would be like 11 to 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Other thoughts
No, I would
or
second that.
comments? Or,
I think the acoustic is the way to go right now. Amplification is just something that we haven't wanted to go for amplification because of the sound, you know, and if you let one business do it, then other businesses will all of a sudden say they want to try it too. So on that level, I wouldn't want to pursue it. The acoustic doesn't seem to be a problem. And the hours that you were asking for 11 in the morning until, was it midnight?
It was midnight, yeah.
So 11 o'clock could be a compromise?
Yeah, what you're proposing is acceptable because I, at this point, think that that fulfills the bulk of our busy times, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Again, we were looking for just an extension of, you know, openness to accommodate our customers. I'm confident within those time constraints in those days that we can serve most of our requests. And if it comes up in the future that there is, you know, our customers are demanding more, we can certainly revisit it, and hopefully at that point, we've proven that we can do this without a detriment to the neighbors. I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, I think it's a compromise to start with. I thought about this the other day, and knowing that this discussion was coming forward, and so I thought I'd throw that out there for the board's consideration.
okay. Other comments, board members?
No, I agree.
Staff, anything that
I'm just
should be added
wondering,
to the...
lots of times, particularly in the summertime, you have situations on like Sunday afternoons where people come in. It's not going to be a big deal with the football season coming in now, but during the summer, during nice weather, I know a lot of people go there on Sunday afternoons, that kind of thing. Is there any concern for anything in the afternoon, for acoustic music in the afternoon on a Sunday?
I think there's a
If no one
proposal,
can
I think
hear
there's a
it.
proposal
I
on the
understand.
table, Mr. Costello. What I might suggest is that, you know, if board members have any, you know, questions, concerns, or additions, now's the time. But I think we do have a proposal on the table.
Yeah, because I mean, if it's on a Sunday, the people don't want it, they're not going to be doing it.
Right,
But
right.
Right now, what's on the table is Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Right.
nothing for Sunday.
yeah, exactly.
And Sunday is, you know, one of our next busier days, but it's not in the evening by any means, so. You know, Sunday would be great to have in the afternoon, but again, we're willing to just work to get to something.
Step by step.
Yeah,
The 3 nights is.
Right.
so
It's a good
Thursday,
beginning.
Friday, Saturday.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 11/8, 11 p. All right, Jim, you will prepare a resolution for the board to review and to present for our October 4th town board meeting.
Sure will.
All right. Any other comments, board, on this matter?
Nope.
All right, seeing none, Andy, was that in the form of a motion?
Yeah, I will
I
move
seconded
that
it.
proposal.
Yeah, that was a good motion.
Moved and seconded, moved by Andy, seconded by Linda. Seeing no further discussion, I would ask for a voice vote. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your
Thank you.
time.
Have a
Thanks,
good evening.
Christy.
And that brings us to the end of the agenda. Nothing further to come before this evening. The September 13th, 2017 work session will be adjourned at 8:13 p.m. Thank you to PCTV. Thank you to everyone that participated.